Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Cut and Uncut with Daphne and Bonnie Violet. My name is Daphne and I am cut.
And I'm Bonnie Violet and I'm uncut. Here we talk about all things trans.
And then some.
In this episode, we'll be reacting to REN Chapter 4, and we're doing some queer artists with Grace Jones, Corporate Cannibal, and Zee Machine, Honeydew.
Honeydew you do.
Honeydew you don't.
We would love to give a huge shout out and a huge thank you to our Patreon members, Miss Skylar Bean, who was in our trade tier, and our free members, Jacob Blankenship, Elizabeth, Danielle Loyal, Bertha D, Carrie Beardsley, and Eclectic Fandom. Hugs and kisses.
You can do hearts now, too.
Oh, yeah. Look, y'all. My hearts are back.
There we go. Watch us on YouTube. Join us on the Patreon. Follow us on TikTok and get that merch.
I got mine.
Merch.
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 Eclectic. So.
Oh, yeah. Here comes. Hey, Eclectic.
So, thank you all for being patient, because I had to reach out to Bonnie because I had some stuff going on that I needed to just change the time for an hour later. So thank y'all for being patient with us and coming back. Look, Deanna. Oh, yeah. All my peoples is here, girl.
Maybe this hour later is good.
Love it, love it, love it. Okay, Bonnie, talk to me, girl. How was your week?
Mine was good. And are we going to do this time from here on out too?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So this will be the time, which is 8 o'clock your time, 7 o'clock my time. And it's this time wherever you are, if you're watching us live. We'll do this every Monday now.
Especially from Australia. I don't know what time.
I know, right? Yes. Yeah, no, my weekend was, I kept it pretty mellow after the weekend before, and it's going to get busy again next weekend. And so I've just been kind of like, I kind of laid low a little bit this weekend. How about you?
Well, Bonnie, I finished Bridgerton, season 3. I laid on the couch, me and the pup, and we vegged like nobody's business. And then we watched the new start of House of Dragons.
I never got into that stuff.
I'm so sorry to hear that, sweetie. But all of y'all, if y'all tell us what y'all did this weekend, we'd love to hear from you. And what's your favorite TV shows?
Yeah, definitely. 8 is better.
8 is better for you, Deanna? Okay. We're going to work.
Oh, the 8 at the time. I'm like, 8? What? I didn't know.
What show was that?
I know. It was like, I was like, oh, maybe that's a reference to the show you were watching or whatever, Bridgerton. Anywho, yeah. So should we get going?
Yes. So what are we doing? You said we're talking about chapter.
So we're on chapter 4.
Okay.
We're on chapter 4, and so we are going to pick up with that with Ren. And then since we are in Pride Month, last week we talked about maybe listening to some Grace Jones. So you had selected a Grace Jones song.
I did.
It's Corporate Cannibal.
Corporate Cannibal.
Yes. So we'll be watching that after chapter 4. And then I picked a friend, queer artist of mine who I thought might be an interesting person to share since it's Pride Month. And why not? You know,
Let's share it.
Why not? So yeah, I'm like, they're really queer. Could be cute. We'll check it out. All right. I need
All ready? Strapped in?
Strapped in. You got your seatbelt on. And your tea or your apple juice.
I'm drinking seltzer water. I was telling you today.
Oh, that's right.
I'm drinking lemon and seltzer water.
All right, here we go. Got it. There was a mosquito. That's all.
Where?
That's what he clapped, was a mosquito.
Oh, that's what he clapped.
No. No.
An obsession. Most people my age are watching porn.
Cool. Here we go.
During the year I spent living back with my mum, I was leaning even more heavily into scouring the internet for answers. It became like an obsession. Most people my age were watching porn. I was on PubMed learning about mitochondria. I educated myself in things like methylation, the building blocks of mitochondria, various immune cells and their functionality, and which supplements could help theoretically bring about homeostasis in my body. I taught myself of the various pathogens that could lead to the symptoms I was experiencing. Around this time, I started ordering medical test kits from private medical facilities. I had a eureka moment when, after posting some poop in a tube to a lab in London, I discovered I had an amoeba and another more benign gastrointestinal parasite called blastohominis. Both could plausibly lead to systemic pain and fatigue. Upon researching the best...
Like, that was quite the graphic. And talking about your insides, the poor thing.
Okay, this poor baby, he been through it. My family would say he got some voodoo on him, but we gonna
right
work on that.
Well, last week he did say he was going to talk about losing his virginity his anal virginity, and then he starts this off with Pornhub. So who knows where this is going to go?
I like him more and more.
Here we go.
Course of action, I found this doctor in New York who was a world-renowned specialist in treating parasites. Return flights to New York booked far enough in advance were a couple of £100 back then. The treatment itself was pretty cheap. I was in no way in a strong financial position, and neither was my family, so I did what I always do when I needed to get money. I wrote and recorded some songs from my laptop from bed. One about getting to New York to find a cure. I sold a modest amount of digital copies to my Facebook friends and my friends and family, just enough to afford a trip. During this time, my symptoms had gotten a lot worse, so the entire visit was a bit of a blur. I remember sitting in a waiting room and struggling to find an inch of wall space that wasn't taken up by the countless medical qualifications and the diplomas attached to it. I half expected the walls to start bragging about their Ivy League connections and debating the latest medical research while us mere mortals waited to be called in. When I was finally on the doctor's table, I was told to take off my clothes and put on a blue disposable paper robe. An old man in his 80s hobbled in, pulled on a medical glove, and proceeded to cover his finger in Vaseline. My heart sunk. I was pretty sure I knew what was coming next. I suddenly wished I'd experimented more with my ex-girlfriend. I didn't want to lose my backdoor virginity like this. He could have at least done me the courtesy of putting on some Marvin Gaye and lighting some candles. But instead I lay in uncomfortable silence on a brightly exposed operating table, while a firm-handed, overqualified old man inserted his index finger forcefully into my anus. He never wrote to me afterwards. I felt used. Nonetheless, I was officially diagnosed.
What's that?
Were you playing Marvin Gaye or was
I was not playing Marvin Gaye.
Deanna, were you playing Marvin Gaye? Somebody playing Marvin Gaye.
Well, I know it was like one finger, and I'm like two. Girl, I know, right? Anywho,
sorry, y'all. Sorry.
There's gonna be probably a little bit of Marvin Gaye again, but here we go.
Inserted his index finger forcefully into my anus. He never wrote to me afterwards. I felt used. Nonetheless, I was officially diagnosed with the parasitic amoeba and given a course of heavy-duty antibiotics to take. I believe it was paramomycin and secnidazole. After the course was finished, I pooped into a tube again, and they confirmed I got rid of the parasites. The constant internal techno raves and gurgling which usually plagued my stomach ceased, but I felt just as crap. And on top of all of that, I started becoming allergic to everything. And I mean fucking everything. The antibiotics had triggered some sort of massive food intolerance reaction. Whenever I'd eat certain foods, I'd get hit with a sudden hangover-like feeling, and my face would swell up. I'd later learned this was something called MCAS, and it was triggered by the antibiotics. This was the first time I felt the crushing defeat of pinning a lot of money, hopes, and time into a treatment only for it to make me worse. I'd felt it to a small degree with every failed herbal protocol, every antidepressant that gave me side effects, but this was on a much larger scale. I almost felt guilty and full of shame for not getting better. I told my friends and family that this was going to be the thing that cured me. Not only did it fail, but I was now unable to tolerate basic carbohydrates, fruits, sugar, high histamine food, dairy, grains, without feeling terrible. I felt pretty crushed about that. Despite this, some tenacious part of me had a perseverance that didn't want to stop looking for answers. I was obsessed with trawling the internet. I strongly believe if I didn't have that tenacity to keep looking after every defeat, I'd probably be dead today. After about a year of living with my mum in North Wales, I got the itch. And
it's kind of wild how like you have to become such an advocate and an expert for yourself. And I'm sure with some of the stuff that our folks have talked about in the past, like you have to become the expert when you go to the professionals, when they should be the ones with the answers.
Because I'm sitting here and I'm like, am I going to get a medical degree after learning all this? Like, should I have like a medical dictionary here for me to follow along? Because this is intense. And not only is it intense, but he's finding just thing after thing after thing. And then the only one thing I think I can hear him finding is hope to carry, or is that word carry on? You know, like he's got on his back. He has to carry it, you know?
Yeah, well, and I think the human desire to like drive to live, you know, I think the drive to survive and to not give up and to take control and gain some power in a very powerless situation. And she went black. There she is.
Sorry.
That's all right. Are you good?
Now I can't hear you.
I thought maybe we all just blinked at the same time.
Did I do something wrong?
Can you hear me?
Huh?
Can you hear me? You can't hear me. Girl. What'd you do?
Keep talking. I'm gonna try to
all right.
and come back in. I apologize. Huh?
I think you know what's up and you're not telling me. What do you need to do? That's funny. I'm talking.
I'm coming back in.
Okay. It's funny that I'm talking at her and she can't hear me.